Once upon a time, in a very big kingdom, there lived a king called King Nwabweze. He was a fair and just king. Not long after his coronation, he got married to his love, Chidinma. They had promised to marry each other for a long time, and now it was a reality for them. They loved each other so much and couldn't wait to make a family. Chidinma was a good wife to her husband and a good queen to their kingdom. 2 years had passed and Chidinma hadn't conceived, but Nwabweze was convinced that she would at the right time. In the fourth year, people were beginning to talk, and Chidinma and her husband didn't pay heed to what was being said about them. In that same year, Chidinma conceived. Their joy knew no bounds. Nwabweze instructed her not to do any hard work so as not to stress herself or the child. Since it took them this long, he didn't want them to lose the child. Soon, Chidinma was getting close to her ninth month. She had arranged everything that she would need for her delivery. Ninth, 10th, 11th, and Chidinma was in her 12th month of pregnancy, but she hadn't delivered. This is strange, her husband said. All the herbalists they went to said the baby was okay, but at the same time, Chidinma wanted the baby out. She wanted to see and behold their little bundle of joy. One night, Chidinma cried with pain. The baby is coming. Get help, please, Chidinma said to her husband, who was already wide awake from his wife's scream. He hurriedly fetched the midwife, and after a couple hours, she delivered a baby girl with really white skin and blonde hair. The midwives looked at each other. In their history of midwifery, they had never seen a thing like that. The child looked so fragile. Chidinma already loved her daughter at first sight. She looked at her lovingly as a beautiful smile stretched on her face. The midwives helped her clean up, and soon the king came into the room to meet his child. He saw his wife holding the child who was swaddled in a cozy cloth. He got close to his wife. You have done well, my queen. Please let me hold her. As he carried her, his face changed. Why does she look like this? He asked. What do you mean? Isn't she beautiful? Chidinma said. Her body looks so white and her hair is so different, he said. My husband, she's fine. She's just special. She's an albino. My albino princess, Chidinma said. The gods have indeed given us a special gift. She looks so beautiful just like you, my queen. And Chidinma blushed, and then she smiled. You need to rest. I will be here when you wake up, her husband said. After his wife and child went to sleep, he ordered the cook to prepare something warm so she would eat and regain her strength. The palace cook did as the king has ordered. When Chidinma woke up, her husband was there just like he said he would. He helped her up and spoon-fed her the warm soup. And then he asked her if she had any names, and she said she had a few. Adaeze, Chiamaka, and Ifeyinwa. Ifeyinwa it is. I like that name. Soon the whole kingdom heard of the queen's birth and longed to see the child. 1 week later, it was the princess's naming ceremony, and many people came bearing gifts. It was a day like no other. The king's sister Ndidi, who was already married, came to congratulate her brother. When the child was shown to the people, everyone was wowed. at how beautiful and bright the baby was. She was like no other child they had seen before, and they had no doubt that she would grow into a very beautiful princess. Having an albino child was different from having a child with melanin. The child is not supposed to go under the sun or use harsh products on their skin. Ifeyinwa slowly grew into a very beautiful princess, and her parents were so proud of who she was going to be. She liked dancing, singing, and cooking. Ifeyinwa was the epitome of beauty, and many admired her, but some envied her for her beauty and status. And one of those people was her auntie Ndidi. Few years back, Ndidi and her brother Eze had a problem. Ndidi loved Ebuka, a young man from the village. They were even planning to get married, but it was stopped by Wabweze, her brother. He had heard so many complaints about Ebuka and how he took things that do not belong to him. He had also settled quarrels and fights with Ebuka and other people. When he heard that his sister was planning to marry Ebuka, he told her that he was not in support of it and that Ebuka was not the right man for her. Indeed, he planned with Ebuka to escape from the kingdom and get married somewhere else. One boy they happened to find out about their plan. He locked Ndidi in her room on the day of their escape. Ebuka went without her, and this made her hate her brother deep down. He had taken the one she loved away, and she promised to do the same to him. Ifeyinwa was 5 years of age when her mother gave birth to twins, Akunna and Uremma. She was so happy. She had always wanted a sibling to play with. The children grew and their parents were more satisfied. They have always asked for one child, but now they had 3. Ndidi would come and take Ifeyinwa to spend time with her and her kids. But whenever she returned, her body would be filled with sunburns. Chidinma had told Ndidi that sun wasn't good for Ifeyinwa's skin, but she was surprised each time it was the same. So whenever Ndidi would come and ask for Ifeyinwa to spend time with her, Chidinma would refuse, and this did not sit well with her. She pleaded that she would be careful this time and convinced her brother that she would take care of Ifeyinwa. When Ifeyinwa was about 19 years old, she was going with Ndidi when some men came out and covered something on her face, and they carried her away. Ndidi was shouting to make her plan look real. She paid some men initially to kidnap Ifeyinwa and take her far away where she would be sold to be someone's slave. When she was sure the men had gone far, she tore her clothes, scattered her hair, and ran to her brother crying that Ifeyinwa had been kidnapped. Chidinma fainted immediately. Eze ran to his wife while commanding his guards to go with his sister to look for his daughter. Ndidi liked the chaos. She was so happy seeing the look of horror on the face of her brother. She knew they loved Ifeyinwa so much, and that was what she wanted. To take something he cherished the most. The men took her and kept her with some other girls that were going to be sold as slaves. Ifeyinwa cried, but was ordered to shut up by the men who stood by. Soon, people were coming to buy, and all eyes were on her as her first bidder bought her and some other girls. She was given to a king by her buyer to work as a maid. Ifeyinwa was not your typical princess. Her mother taught her how to do some things around the house. She begged the woman that was in charge of the slaves to please appoint her to work indoors, that she would get sick if she worked outdoors. The woman agreed and placed her in the kitchen. Ifeyinwa being a good cook, she started cooking the king's meal because her madam was satisfied by the taste of her food. When King Odinaka tasted the food, it was really delicious. The other ones were not bad, but this was different. As all the flavors burst in his mouth, he was tempted to ask about the cook who made the food. And so was the food that he ate the coming week. And because of this, he had ate more than usual. One night, as he was about to go to sleep, something caught his attention. Looking outside, he saw a fair figure. We don't really have people like this in this kingdom. And why is she in my palace? He said to himself. Whenever he was outside, his eyes would scan the environment looking for her. That particular day, the cook had made his favorite dish of vegetables, fish, meat, and some periwinkles. His mother always made that for him when she was alive. He had to send for the cook. When she came, she was the exact girl he had seen the night, and now he understood why he had never seen her during the day. He thanked her and continued to stare as she left. He asked for her to come see him, and she came. From then on, the king and Ifeyinwa developed feelings from friendship. But he couldn't marry a slave as it was a taboo in their tradition. But he decided to pry further, and then she told him of how she was kidnapped and didn't know her way back even if she wanted to return home. Odinaka told her that he would go with her after his meeting in the coming week. They went home and her parents' joy knew no bounds. Odinaka was so happy to finally meet her parents. He told them of how in love he was with Ifeyinwa and wanted to marry her. They gave him their consent, saying that he was a good man. He had helped their daughter back to her father's land. Odinaka went back home and informed his kinsmen about his marriage. They prepared and went to marry Ifeyinwa. It was a very big celebration, but Ndidi didn't show her face, and the royal family wondered why, because she was family and was also very close to Ifeyinwa. When Ifeyinwa got to her husband's kingdom, she begged him to allow the slaves return to their home, and the ones that don't want to go back or do not know their home, she told him to pay them monthly, that it will make them really happy. She overheard them saying while she was working in the palace kitchen. When the king announced his decision, the crowd cheered for him and his queen. No king had ever taken such a decision before. Ifeyinwa was shopping for new clothes when she saw one of her abductors. She immediately told the guards to grab him. Apparently, she had heard them talking about how much someone paid them to abduct her and how they were going to share the money. She happened to see their faces when they removed her masks to give her water. She returned home with him and explained to her husband. The man was questioned and he confessed that Ndidi paid them to kidnap her. She was shocked for a few seconds. She didn't believe it. She went to her father and told him her discovery. They too were stunned. They sent for Ndidi. She came not knowing what she was called. Why, Ndidi? Why did you do this to my daughter, your niece? The king asked. I don't know what you're talking about, she replied. You want me to force it out of you? He said angrily. Then his face turned into that of a monster. Yes, it was me. I promised myself to make you feel pain, but I guess my plan wasn't solid enough. They would have killed her. You took the only man I ever loved from me and left me to suffer, she said. Oh, so this was about Ebuka? I only did what any brother would do for his sister. I was protecting you from getting hurt. I didn't want you to regret it later. I thought we had passed this, but I was wrong. I would have locked you up, but no, that would be unfair to your children. You are never to return to this kingdom. If you are seen as close to the borders, I won't be responsible for the action I will take, Nwabueze said. Ndidi's face turned to that of horror. She couldn't bear the thought of never coming to her father's land. She begged, but it was too late. The guards escorted her out of the kingdom. Her mind was numbed for the punishment her brother had given. The moral lessons of this story: when you hold a grudge for too long, it makes you a bitter person. And a bitter person is a dangerous person. Being attentive to your environment is very helpful. It can save a life. Thank you for watching, and I hope you enjoyed the story. Please don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe to our channel.